A leader I coached thought he was deciding whether someone deserved a promotion. But halfway through our conversation, everything flipped. The real question wasn't about the employee at all, it was about him. Good day to you all, and welcome to Bad Day Excellence, the podcast where we transform tough days into opportunities for growth. I'm Brian Walsh, an optimist with over a decade of experience in marketing, leadership, and personal transformation. In that time, I have shed more than 100 pounds. I've run a marathon. I wrote a book and worked with some of the most inspiring people I have ever met. I'm here to help you build habits that create clarity, success, and a meaningful life, even when life feels chaotic. Every week, we'll dive into the art of habit formation and how you can apply it to your career, parenting, relationships, and beyond. Ready to turn a bad day into your next breakthrough? Let's get started. Last week, I was working with a leader that was trying to decide if he should promote one of his team members. We went back and forth, gathering information, challenging any quick conclusions that kind of jumped into our heads and weighed all of the options. It was actually a really good session that both of us came out with a lot of clarity, but there was one pivotal moment that changed the whole decision-making process. With the economy what it is and the job market being so tight, there are a few nagging questions on everyone's minds. One of which is, if I lost my job today, would I be able to get another one? You see, this leader is in a company that is highly impacted by the current state of affairs with the US economy and the political spectrum. So, how does this relate to the discussion to promote this individual? And what was that pivotal moment that changed the question on its head? I challenged the leader to ask if the individual was just building their resume so that they could leave. And my assumption was that they were already checked out. But we quickly realized that everyone in his company is worried they might be out of a job, and that this individual was highly engaged. They took ownership of many initiatives, and really the proof was there. So in that moment, the question turned from, does this individual deserve this promotion, to what kind of leader am I? A servant leader will remove blockers and enable their team to work in the space they have competence. But a transformational leader will find opportunities to stretch and push and mold beyond their team members' abilities. As soon as I realized the shift in this question, my brain began to race in all sorts of directions of excitement. Once we re-engaged in the discussion, we started talking about the approach because we lowered the barriers from thinking this was a title they needed to earn to an opportunity to ally with the team member to find a path of transformation. You see, this individual is an A player with technical and communication skills of a senior level. The space they are lacking is somewhat of a maturity of patience and mindfulness. Simply put, they gossip a lot, especially when things don't pan out. This was the biggest hurdle this leader was struggling with when considering the promotion. So there we were, sitting with this whole new direction that was no longer a yes or no, but a how and when. There was a slight deadline to decide, so we knew when, but determining how to not only give this individual the new senior title, but having them take on that ownership that comes with the new role. You have to consider that we can assign roles and responsibilities. You can hold them accountable for the results, but you cannot make them take ownership. That comes from within. I have a few indicators I use to measure the likelihood of someone taking ownership. It may not make sense to you and is not actually deeply rooted in science, but remember that this is because every person I assess lives a different life. So here's the main indicators that I look for. First, we'll start with the positive indicators. Their why. Why do they do the role that they are in? Why do they come in and check in every day? The current competency that they hold. What knowledge do they currently have? The time and energy they have available to explore. This is actually not rooted in the individual, but rooted in the environment they work in. And then we have our negative. That's the responsibilities and tasks, the amount of growth or the gap that we see between where they are then and where they need to be. To determine this potential for ownership requires a lot of energy because you actually have to dive deep into understanding the person and the environment around them. This is why it is so crucial to always foster a culture of connection, choice, and competency. By following the 3 C's, you will be able to measure their potential for ownership a lot quicker. But the biggest asterisk here is that you actually need a 4th C, consistency. So if your actions and your team's actions and behaviors aren't adhering to the principles and ideals that you all have established, then it gives more weight to the outlier behaviors and results. This will skew your results in the end. So let's jump back to the individual. We know we want to put them at ease by promoting them, but how do we take this as an opportunity to activate them as an owner without burning out? We know they are highly technical and engage a lot. So moving into the new role wouldn't be much of a stretch. We also know that they have some areas of improvement when it comes to the outcomes and how they react to them. That is, again, personal challenge as much as an organizational challenge. So we need to figure out the gap and determine how big of a lift it is to get there. Remember, this is one of those negative indicators. So the larger the gap, the lower the score. There is only so much time and energy someone can allocate towards their growth. So what we might be able to add towards the gap has a ceiling. This will slow down the growth, and depending on the individual, like myself, could require an accountability partner if they have trouble with the large overarching initiatives and tasks. Now that we've identified this gap and we already know what the roles and responsibilities are, it's time for the climb. Every climb requires time and energy. In order to keep making the attempts on the ladder of failure, we need the environment that they work in to encourage the attempts and not just the end result. Just as in the book Gung Ho by Ken Blanchard, we need to give the gift of the goose. The geese will honk the entire way as they fly in the overhead signature V shape. The book basically says that they're encouraging each other the whole way. For those of you who are parents, I get flashbacks of really what they're doing is the mom or dad is shouting in the back to the kids to stop fighting. But in this case, I want to kind of go with the former option. So consistently looking for those opportunities to cheer on the attempts will help reinforce the working towards better, which we know from the compound effect will yield exponential growth over time. After looking at all of the data, I can share with you that when we finished this session, the leader walked away with clarity of direction. I'm sure you all want to know what happens, which I do now know where they are today. But like the honk from a goose, we want to celebrate the effort and growth, not of the team member, but actually the leader who cares so deeply for everyone in his charge. When we have individuals at the top who understand that work isn't everything and that there is more to their people than just results, the job becomes more meaningful and the company grows. So this week's challenge is for you leaders out there. Pick a team member who you believe is ready to level up. Run through the positive and negative indicators and share and determine whether or not you have an environment ready to activate them into an owner. Ask yourself, what kind of leader are you? If you've enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button and please leave a review. If you're feeling super feisty, maybe go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else that you may listen to podcasts and give me a 5-star rating. Ratings, comments, and shares are all forms of showing love, not just to me, but to others, because together we can spread are good vibes to people on their bad days. I'm Brian Walsh, your habit crafting guide and biggest champion. Thanks for tuning into Bad Day Excellence. See you next time.